Hi there, everyone. I am Dr. Lalit Vijaydoru, and I'm from a consultancy called Behind Your Mask. And I'm here to talk to you about how to better engage with stakeholder panels. And I'm very excited to be working with the NHS on helping people in the NHS, particularly those at leadership level, to better engage with staff and service user panels. So many of you listening to this will be either somebody who has applied to or hoping to apply to an aspiring chief exec or executive director program. So this is my artistic way of thinking. This is who you want to be, that kind of successful CEO or ED or some NHS leader. And so, and the aspiring executive program or these leadership programs are there to help develop these skills in leadership. And my background is I'm a former consultant pediatrician in emergency medicine. So I have been a clinical leader myself, but also have had extensive experience of dealing with executive directors and C-suite members of tertiary hospitals. And so the capacity where I'm here to talk to you is about how to engage in stakeholder panels. As I'm sure many of you have had some experience, these panels may be stakeholders from outside the organization, people who are work within the organization, but importantly, service users. And my experience of stakeholder panels is very much listening to the stories of stakeholders, and I'm very interested in how executive directors and aspiring chief execs relate and engage with contributors to such panels. Now, the reason why I am doing this training is because colleagues across the NHS have said that they have received lots of feedback about how they engage with such stakeholder panels. And starting with the good things, they said that the good things that participants, particularly aspiring chief execs or executive directors, do is you are very good at providing solutions, very good at strategy, very good at problem solving. So you are very good at fixing. And so that has been overwhelmingly the strongest feedback that many contributors or applicants to aspiring chief exec or executive director programs receive. However, there have been some negative feedback, and the negative feedback has been about the level of disconnect between those who are contributing stories to stakeholder panels, so like a patient or a service user or a staff member, and the expiring chief execs or executive directors. So I think that is where the area that I think that needs to be developed, and that's what I am here to help you with. So my background, apart from being a doctor, is that I'm a storytelling coach. And so I coach patients, service users, and staff members to share their stories, their personal lived experiences related to the NHS to such stakeholder panels. And so I have an insight into what it feels like for them, and of course myself as a storyteller, what it may feel like to share a story in front of such panels. And this is my artistic depiction of that. It is quite vulnerable. It is quite exposing. You can very much feel exposed, semi-naked, by showing or sharing your vulnerable story in front of people who are astutely looking at or listening to you. And so there is this degree of vulnerability. So I do want you to acknowledge that, there is a bravery involved in sharing your story and some work involved in doing so. So this is not to be taken lightly. And again, when you share a lived experience, you may feel that you are completely alone, not so much in the delivery of the story, but in your experience. And so there is not only this authentic vulnerability that storytellers go through, there is also this perhaps feeling of isolation, that you are only a person who has experienced this, or perhaps that it is isolating being that vulnerable or semi-naked. And of course, why do storytellers share their story to NHS leaders? Is they want to have impact. They want to see that actually the delivery of their story or the message of their story is on target, that it actually, the people listen to it, hear the main themes that they want to share. So I think this is very important to acknowledge. And so the storytellers, they want to instigate change. They want, through their story, to hopefully kickstart or start a conversation or have a process that leads to change. But the other change that needs to happen is in people like you, in terms of maybe perhaps how you listen to these stories. That in maybe that you have been very comfortable in problem solving or fixing or listening to these stories and thinking, what's the solution? But maybe a change needs to happen in that actually acknowledging the storyteller and really identifying the themes and seeing them as a human may be a way to help these storytellers feel more engaged and perhaps willing to share more of their stories. And so this is where I come in. I am all about the emotions. And so this is the change or the change in mindset that I'm asking you all to do. I really want you to start thinking about how you listen to stories, but to acknowledge the emotions involved. And why is emotion important? It is a form of intelligence. And particularly in this day of artificial intelligence, as machines start getting better at becoming machines, us humans need to be better at being human. And what distinguishes us from machines is our emotion intelligence that involves social skills, motivation, but really importantly is the stuff in the middle, the self-awareness and the empathy. And so empathy has been named as one of the key leadership skills of the new digital age. And you need to bring this leadership skill not only to the people that you manage, but to stakeholder panels. And it's by seeing and viewing and receiving the storytellers as human that is what is going to help you as a aspiring chief exec or executive director. So be curious, imagine yourself in other people's shoes, listening and validating the feelings and the emotions of the stories that you hear. This is very, very key. And so I believe in the power of stories. I think stories are beautiful. I think they're magical and they have a real power to engage, to educate, to inspire. And so, as I said, the storytellers, the motivation for sharing their story is because they want to either celebrate change, to lead to change, or to celebrate what is good, that what is already good about the health service. And they are doing this through a personal narrative. They are sharing a first-hand account of their own experience, and they want to share and reflect on these experiences and inviting you in. So this is how what these series of workshops is supposed to do is to help you connect with these personal narratives. And the way to do that is to listen. And this sounds pretty obvious that when you come to hear a story that you need to listen to the story, but I want you to listen in a different way. And these are my top 3 tips on how to listen to a panel story. Listen with curiosity. Really be curious about somebody else's lived experience. And this may be very, very different to what you are expecting or to your own personal, cultural lens. And so we talk about listening with curiosity as a key part of being empathetic. The second thing I want you to do is to listen with respect. Again, somebody's experience may be diametrically opposed to your own cultural, spiritual, personal, or ethical values. And you may hear things which may be upsetting, or you may hear things which may upset you. It is very easy as a leader to become defensive about the problems that are presented, but you must listen with respect to acknowledge the lived experience of the person sharing their story. And the third thing I want you to listen with is with gratitude. As I said, it takes time to craft a story. It is quite isolating and quite vulnerable to expose your own lived experience. So as a leader, receiving and listening to these stories with gratitude could also put you in very good stead to creating connection. As I mentioned before, it can be very easy to be dismissive, and you may hear things that shock, startle, or that go against your own grain. But it's so important to acknowledge your own feelings, but to acknowledge the feelings of the person sharing their story. And if you do this, this is where I know you are listening to a story, but you need to see the human who is sharing their story, listen to their words, acknowledge their emotions, and see the human. And the difference between listening to respond or to reply or to fix and from listening to understand is that a storyteller may realize that actually what they're saying is just like water off a brick, that you are just problem solving or just fixing, but actually, if you are understanding somebody, that you are absorbing like a sponge, that you are understanding and dissecting. So, less defensive and less problem solving, more acknowledging and more understanding. And so to achieve this, we are going to do a simulation, but a simulation of a storytelling panel where a service user or a staff member will share a story of their lived experience. But we're going to flip this on its head and we're going to get you to be in the seat of a storyteller so that you experience firsthand what it must feel like to share your own personal story in front of perhaps a group of strangers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to coach you just the same way that I coach staff members and service users to share a story in front of a panel, and the panels will be made up of you as simulated panel members. So when sharing your story, what we'll be doing in the other videos, you will learn about authenticity, and part of being authentic is being vulnerable. And the other part is this courage that, there is a bravery in being vulnerable. And you will start to realize that actually, when you do share your own story, how exposing and vulnerable and how that might feel. But the reason for this is that this will build trust, and we are trusting our storytellers to share the truth with us, and they are also trusting us of what you are going to do with their precious story. And so I realize that as leaders, this may come across as difficult for you, but I promise you that it will. What it feels like may make you feel very, very nervous, but afterwards, I promise that you will reap the benefits. And so, through sharing your story and creating dialogue on the panel, the simulated panels will hopefully help you understand how to respond to stories. And this will, instead of the previous slides where we had disconnect, hopefully by responding to stories and recognizing the emotions of humans, this will actually lead to connection. And the more connections that we make, this is what's going to help build you and the organizations that you lead as future aspiring chief execs or executive directors. So think about how these panels are going to how these are going to pan out in real life, and prepare yourself for some simulated panels. And this hopefully will lead to your success in either getting onto the aspiring chief exec or executive director program, or generally in the jobs that you do. And so just to summarize, how do you listen to stories? Listen with curiosity, listen with respect, and listen with gratitude, and really acknowledge the emotions, hear the emotions of the stories, of the experiences of the storytellers, and identify the themes. You will receive a multi-woven thread of themes. Dissect out the themes and see if you can identify them and present them. But the thing that I do not want you to see during these simulated panels are problem solving and fixing. Let's practice acknowledging the human sides of it, acknowledging the emotions, and identifying the themes without trying to problem solve or fix. And so to summarize, listen with the intention to understand rather than with the intent to reply. And that's when you will see the human and acknowledge your storytellers. So the next set of videos will focus more on how to craft your story. I look forward to meeting you in due course.